We think of landmarks as being built with stone and steel, right? Well, what if I told you the most lasting ones could be built with words? Today, we're going to look at the incredible story of a cultural architect who literally wrote a landscape into existence.
I mean, really think about that for a second. What turns a random pond into a place people write poems about, or a simple mountain into a national symbol? It's not just about what's physically there, it's about the stories we attach to them. And it turns out, about 300 years ago, one guy figured out the master formula for doing just that.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We're going to look at 3 brilliant strategies he used to completely transform the Taiwanese frontier. We'll dive into a ruined garden, a rebranded lake, and a mountain nobody could even climb, to see how he created a cultural blueprint that people are still following today.
Okay, first things first, we have to get our heads around this key idea. A landscape isn't just dirt and trees. It's a canvas, holding all of our history, our memories, our identity. And our story starts with the man who looked at a wild frontier and saw that canvas.
This is our guy, Chen Menglin. He was a scholar, a poet, and an official for the Qing Empire, and he gets sent to what was, back then, the frontier, a place called Zhuluo, which we now know as the city of Chiayi in Taiwan. His job wasn't just to run the place, it was to understand it and write it all down.
And in 1717, this is where things get really interesting. While he's putting together the region's first official history book, he does something nobody expected. He doesn't just record the facts. He decides to invent meaning. He singles out what he calls the 6 sites of Zhuluo, and in doing so, he basically draws a brand new cultural map from scratch. Let's look at how he did it.
His first strategy is so clever. It starts with something most people would just walk past, a forgotten, overgrown, and pretty much ruined garden. He saw a chance to take something that was already there and just bolt on a whole new layer of meaning.
We can call this technique value addition. It's a simple but powerful idea. You find a place, any place, and you connect it to a big, respected cultural tradition. Things like art, history, or poetry. And all of a sudden, you're not just looking at a place anymore. You're looking at something important.
So Chen's subject was this piece of land behind his office. Totally wild, full of weeds. But, and this is key, it had these huge, old mango trees. Now, mangoes aren't from there. They were a leftover from the Dutch colonial era. So this garden was already a forgotten piece of history. It was the perfect canvas for him to work on.
So instead of seeing a ruin, Chen saw inspiration. He wrote a poem about it, and with his words, he framed the wild view as a new picture scroll, and the garden itself as an old poetry collection. And boom! Just like that, an overgrown lot becomes a destination for scholars and artists. It's not a wasteland anymore, it's a place of culture. That's value addition.
Okay, his next strategy was even more direct, even more powerful. After adding value with poetry, he showed that if you really want to change how people see a place, you start by changing its name. This is the ultimate cultural rebrand.
The idea is called scraping and rewriting. Just imagine wiping a slate clean and writing something brand new. That's exactly what Chen did with place names. He took these plain, functional labels and swapped them for beautiful, poetic names that were just packed with meaning.
Okay, so take this place for example. The original name was Fanzi Pond. It's a totally practical name for an irrigation pond that everyone used. It does the job, but it's not exactly inspiring, is it?
So Chen comes along and just invents a new name, North Fragrance Lake. It's elegant, it's memorable, but it's not just a pretty name. There's actually a hidden story baked right into it.
Here's the secret. Chen noticed that the lotuses in this pond bloomed deep into the winter. Now, in Chinese culture, flowers that can handle the cold are huge symbols of virtue and perseverance. So, by renaming the pond for its northern fragrance on the cold wind, he instantly connected it to this powerful Confucian ideal. He took an irrigation ditch and turned it into a monument to moral strength.
All right, now for his last and maybe his most ambitious strategy. What do you do when the landmark you want to create is so remote, so mysterious that you can't even get to it? Well, you project meaning onto it from miles away.
This is the strategy of cultural connection. If you can't describe what a place actually is, you describe what it's like. You use powerful cultural reference points that everybody already gets, things like myths, philosophy, legends. It's like using a cultural projector.
So his subject this time was Jade Mountain, the highest peak in Taiwan. Back in the 18th century, this place was completely off limits.
It was seen as the realm of spirits and indigenous tribes. You could see it, but you definitely couldn't get there. Chen had to write about a mountain he could never, ever climb. So he looked at it through two very powerful cultural lenses.
First up, a Confucian lens. He compared the mountain's pure, snowy white peak to jade, which is a classic symbol of a gentleman's virtue. And its remoteness? That wasn't a problem, it was a feature. Just like a perfect, wise person, the mountain could be admired from a distance, but it was just too pure to be touched. He brilliantly flipped a physical limit into a moral asset.
But he didn't stop there. He also slapped on a mythical lens. In another poem, he compares Jade Mountain to Mount Meru, which is basically the crystal palace at the center of the Buddhist cosmos. He even writes about the foothills being guarded by monsters, vipers, and leeches, and all sorts of nasty things, making it crystal clear that this wasn't just a mountain, it was a divine, forbidden paradise.
So, value addition, scraping and rewriting, and cultural connection. 3 incredible strategies. But the real question is, did it work? And the answer is a huge, resounding yes. Chen Menglin's words weren't just descriptions in a book, they became a cultural blueprint that has literally shaped a city for 300 years.
Just look at this timeline. It's incredible. 200 years after Sichuan, poetry societies were still meeting at the site of the old mango garden for inspiration. And then, get this, in 2015, the city of Chiayi built a new park, and they named it Beixiang Lake Park, North Fragrance Lake. They revived his 300-year-old name. His words are quite literally on the map today.
When you boil it all down, what Chen Menglin proves is that the landmarks that define our world aren't just found, they are actively made. A physical space only becomes a meaningful place when we cover it in stories, memories, and ideas. Our landscapes are just canvases, and culture is the paint we use.
And that leaves us with one final thought. This isn't just a history lesson from 300 years ago. This exact same process is happening all around us right now. So take a look at your own town, your own city. What stories are being told about the parks, the streets, the buildings, and who is doing the writing?